right, we're good to
Okay,
go.
we're good to go. Yep.
So, thanks, Karen. All right, well, I'll call to order tonight's meeting of the Otonabee Region Conservation Authority at 4:03. I'll start with our land acknowledgement, which is we respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to First Peoples for their care for, their teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. So that is getting rolling, and welcome Mr. Vasiliadis to the board. He wasn't with us last time, but welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good thing we're starting a little early, and we should be able to wrap this one up pretty early today. So look for an approval of tonight's agenda. See Gary and Mike. All in favor? Good to go. Does anybody have a disclosure of pecuniary interest? If not, please do it at the time. No delegations this evening. Minutes from December 15th, 2022. Can I get, so as everybody's had a chance to review them, can I get an approval of those minutes? Ron and John, all in favor? Excellent. No business arising from the minutes, I don't believe. Then we move straight into the reports. So we have report 2023-002, the transition plan. So our program and inventory. I believe, Jeanette, this is your baby.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. So recognizing that the real action approval item tonight is the budget for 2023. In discussion with the chair, we felt that it would be appropriate to have a little bit of context around how the budget was developed, and recognizing that the former board in 2022 did see it and did approve it. So I really wanted to, how do we build a budget and how do we get to where we are? So one of those key documents that we did use is what's called our transition plan. And I've attached it to our agenda for your review today, our transition plan and program and inventories. So this was a directive of the province back in October of 2021 that all conservation authorities develop these program and inventory to categorize the services and ensure that they're meeting the mandates that the province has set out. The former CAO really is the author of our transition plan, and there was a number of opportunities to bring it forward to the board. It was also circulated in 2021 and 2022 to our member municipalities. I do know that there were many visits and meetings and discussions with our member municipalities around the program and inventories as it was being developed. And so what you have in front of you is the June 16th final transition plan. That was approved by the board and sent to the ministry as per their directive, which they did approve in June. I'd also like to note that this, as the former CA was working through this transition plan, we always, when we send in progress reports, we always do hear back from the ministry. And all of the times that we had done that, the former CIO and myself, we have been recognized as being fully compliant with the directives that the ministry has set out, and recognizing that we are fulfilling the formats and meeting the objectives. So they have only pointed out very, very minor little things over the time, which we are as staff also very proud of in terms of it. Across the province, there are some conservation authorities that are still working on their transition plans and still refining the information. So we're also really proud that we have a good solid transition plan, solid understanding of the categories of our programs and services, and that, and then as you might have looked through the transition plan, there's also some costing that had been attached, or at least 3 scenarios of that. So there was a lot of work and a lot of analysis that was put into developing that plan. And that was one of our key documents that we helped to build the 2023 budget. It is moving forward, one of the requirements that the ministry is looking for in 2024 budgets, that again, we use these documents to help build the budget. It wasn't a requirement for this year, it is for next year, but again, we were trying to achieve those milestones when we were ready and able to incorporate them into our planning and administration. When we have our board orientation next week, we start it on the 26th at 4 o'clock. There is going to be a lot of discussion. Our former CIO, along with one of our former board members and Chair Andy Mitchell, they're going to talk a little bit around governance, talk around legislation, and I've asked them to touch a lot on the details related to this plan specifically. Given that he was a key author of it. So I'm happy to answer any high-level questions that you might have, but again, this was one of the documents we used when we built the budget. And we also brought forward this in our August report. So part of our budget cycle is in August at the board meeting. Staff, I bring forward a report seeking direction from the board around what are the things that requirements for the budget. And this was highlighted as, again, one of those key documents that would help inform the budget process. So, Mr. Chair, that's really what I wanted to say in reference to the transition plan.
Thank you, Jeanette. And yeah, so it's really just open it up for questions. If anybody has any questions about the transition plan. And as Jeanette mentioned, when we go through the more like the deeper board orientation, I mean, we can really kind of peel it back and explain things. But if you have, any generic or questions about it, feel free to throw them out. Anyone?
I'd also like to highlight that we are mandated, but we do include this transition plan on our website, along with our progress reports that we do submit to the province as well, under our board and governance page. So it's very accessible.
Okay. Well, again, we'll compliment staff and everybody for putting the transition to plan together, ahead of schedule last year, and being well ahead of the curve as far as the other conservation authorities go.
Ryan?
Oh, yeah.
If I could ask just one question, I don't know if this is the appropriate time to ask it or not, but I in the transition plan, it mentions agreements in the Lakefield campground. I know this is new. I'm just wondering if you have any comments about how that is going, because that is new to Orca this year, and it's certainly a change for those of us in Selwyn and Lakefield. So I wonder if you have any comments whatsoever about how that is going.
Jen?
So again, in context of the transition plan, this was the third version that the board had seen, and the third version in particular was to include Lakefield, which was a new service under Pathway 2 for it. So we started last year of November the 1st, and we had a lot of Lakefield campground people coming into the office asking a lot of questions. I did actually attend the meeting in September with the campers as well, and your staff, the township staff. And so it is a transition between from the old operator to us. And so there's a lot of communication. We've put out, actually just yesterday, put out some more Q&As to help mostly the seasonal campers in particular. Just again, so it's going along well. It's a transition. It's clarifying some of the rules, if you will, that might be different from the old operator to the rules that we have now in place. And so continual communications is really important.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? Joe?
Thank you, Ryan. And I think it's fair to say, really for the benefit of the new board members, that during the last term, this was reviewed extensively by staff and the board. And there was very few services or functions that the Conservation Authority performed that were outside of the scope of mandatory. So we found that we were delivering what we were supposed to deliver, what we were legislated to deliver. And of course, then you have to put a cost to that. But this created quite a burden, apparently, in some conservation authorities outside of the workload, not so much for autonomy.
Exactly, Joe. Thank you. Ron?
Yeah, just to follow up to John's question around the campground. With the other campgrounds do you have some kind of group that meets to talk about how it's operating? I mean, we had a Parks and Recs committee, I'm sure, that would have been involved in the past with the park, part of it at least. With Beavermead and Warsaw, do you have a sort of a regular communication with the campers, or do you do a town hall type of thing? How's it going? As you know, it was a very complicated, messy situation in Lakefield. And my concern is that, and maybe it's more of a township concern than an Orchid concern, is that we have a lot of residents there that have some thoughts on certainly the environmental aspects of the campground. It's in a very sensitive area, obviously. What's the communication plan for that moving forward? And I only say that because it has been sensitive in the past, and we want to make sure voices are heard as we move into a new generation of that campground. So I just didn't be interested in your thoughts on that.
So, Mr. Chair, through you. So we don't have what you might have in a municipal setting, like an advisory committee or any of those committees. It isn't really relevant in the situations of Beavermead and or Warsaw. We do have operating agreements for Beavermead and for Lakefield, and so we really pay attention to ensuring that we're meeting all of those obligations. So really a lot of communication does happen with the township staff, and then obviously a lot of communication happens with the campers themselves in terms of things. With that said, we recognize here, staff, that there is a transition happening at Lakefield, and we want to make sure that what the transition isn't, I guess, an evolution, if you will, to where we need it to be. We don't, as opposed to a revolution, as somebody once said to me. And so, there is an opportunity to have, I'm open to having an opportunity or a conversation if that will help the residents around it explain things. I did commit to having, we use the word town hall meetings. I did commit to having another public information open meeting with the campers. And again, a lot of them were seasonal. We felt that was very helpful for them. And this will be our first year that we will have staff on the ground, right? In terms of things. So we know that our staff need to be well informed, be able to answer questions, whether they be from residents and or from campers themselves. And so we plan to build that into their orientation themselves. So I'm happy to have a little bit more conversation with you and your staff if you feel that there's an opportunity to have some resident conversations.
I think there's a lot of benefit to to communicating, engaging with those folks. There are a lot of volunteers there that would do volunteer work in the campgrounds. They do a lot of cleanup stuff as it is now. On top of the campground regulars, there are other regulars that use the area that have a vested interest. And I guess my concern is that has to be recognized. I know you have meetings with the campground folks, but without getting into a riot, I think an offer to listen to the other users that walk around the campground and use the rest of the point, I think would be beneficial. And I know you got a lot on your plate as far as getting it up and running this year. But I think as Orca contemplates changes, I think it's worth a town hall to kind of get support from the other users, basically, is what I'm saying.
So Ron, just not to hijack this meeting, I mean, we're trying to kind of focus on the transition plan for Orca. I mean, maybe we could come back with a report later on how the transition of the Lakefield campground's going, and maybe that's a better forum for your questions. And points.
No, absolutely. My apologies for taking up so much time.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. They're both transitions, right?
So if I could, that's part of the transition, which is why I opened this can of worms to ask it. But and I just want to say that please involve Ron and I when those meetings happen. I'm sure I'm speaking for Ron that we would be happy to attend, because you mentioned the word Lakefield Revolution. We don't want that in any headlines. So we'd be happy to support any way we can. So let us know. Thank you.
Excellent. Any more questions about the Orca Conservation Authority transition plan? All right, seeing none, get somebody to move, or I guess we're just receiving these guys. Can we receive this report? Joe, thank you. And Ron, thank you. All in favor? Excellent, thank you very much. The next report for information is 2023-003, 2023 performance objectives overview. This is still you, Jeanette.
It is, Mr. Chair. So I just have a quick couple of slides for this, and I'm going to ask if I can get some help to have that put up. There's a few slides on performance objectives that relates again. So for our new directors, again, this was another key tool that we used in helping to build our 2023 budget, is our performance objectives. So in terms of the annual cycle that you will see, again in August, we'll bring forward a report that will seek direction from the board around developing the next year's budget. And in the following month, staff will bring forward another draft set of performance objectives for the organization that will also, again, have some discussion, have approval, but then help inform the building of the budget, especially from a service level perspective in terms of things. So the overall objective is really around measuring our effectiveness as an organization in our different program areas. This is so I'm going to go to the next slide, please. Wonderful. So again, in these particular performance objectives were brought to the September board meeting. There was some discussion at that board meeting, and again approved at the meeting, and then utilized in terms of developing, helping to build that budget, inform the budget process, I should say. The attachment, which is Appendix A in your agenda, also includes all of our legislative requirements and our monitoring of our programs. So again, really wanting to understand our effectiveness as a whole, as an organization. Staff bring this report forward quarterly alongside our financial reports as well. So next slide, please. So in this, in the 2023 performance objectives, again, a few opportunities for some improvement from what we've done in the past. So one is that we've included a column that outlines our category 1, 2, and 3 programs. And this is aligning very well with our transition plan that we just spoke about. So next slide, please. And I really wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about, you know, the comments referenced on this slide. So really the actual objectives, it's an Excel format that we bring forward every year. And staff are at the meeting able to provide fulsome answers to all of the various questions that the directors have. But we also wanted to provide, moving forward, we want to be able to sort of have an overview, if you will. I'm calling it a dashboard report. It could be a report card, but something that is live, that gives you a better picture, an understanding of our organization effectiveness. We will still continue to bring the more fulsome Excel sheet that you see in your agenda package now, but just an opportunity to really take a look and say, yes, we're meeting all of our objectives, program wise, we're on target with what we said we were going to do, and you'll be able to do that at a higher level. And if you chose to, you'll be able to drill more into the details. We also want to be able to link some of our policy work. And so this is the first time, again, we're reporting out separately. We want to be able to combine that into a more comprehensive dashboard where we include our climate change strategy work and implementation, which we have more included again this year. And then we also want to be able to reduce the redundancies. So when we are reporting out, it's really, again, you can understand as a board, are we being effective with our resources? Are we meeting our legislative requirements? And if not, where are we having the troubles in terms of things? The opportunity to make this also more outwardly facing and more public funding. So this is a development idea. We're not quite there yet, but it is the context to how you will hopefully see future reports related to our performance objectives. And I believe that's the last slide on this one. So again, this is related to that, is that we bring this forward. It's also connected to our other financial and capital reports. So that's, we'll take the slide deck down. We'll come back to it when we come to our budget. But so, Mr. Chair, that's really what I wanted to say in terms of the performance objectives. You will see this report many times throughout your time on the board.
Thank you, Jeanette. And yeah, so the last of these two reports were really kind of just setting us up so we could see the budget which follows next, and kind of where the budget was built from. So any questions about the performance objective review or report? As Jeanette said, you will see it a few times over the course of the year. All right. Seeing none, can I get a receiver? John, I didn't know you're scratching your nose or moving it. All right. A seconder? Adam, thank you. All in favor? Excellent. So moved or received. My apologies. All right. Now we have a report for approval. So now we have to approve our 2023-04 approval of the 2023 amended operational and capital budget.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So happy to bring the 2023 budget back for your review and approval tonight. You have a report in front of you that outlines all of our recommended motions that staff are looking for. I do want to highlight a few things. So one is that the budget was prepared and brought to the October 20th board meeting. There was a lot of questions and discussion at that meeting, and the board did approve it. It was circulated as per the regulations to our member municipalities and posted on our website as well. And the 2023 budget, there are some regulations that have been handed down to conservation authorities with respect to the formats of our budgets. And those regulations don't come into effect until 2024. However, we're trying as staff really hard to implement some of the formatting with the 2023 budget, just to try and do a pilot to get us more familiar with what the province was looking for. As you know, we do obviously have to ensure that the province does receive a copy after formal approval of the board. So one of the amendments, I do want to speak to the amendment, if I can, Mr. Chair. So in early January, staff were informed by WSIB that our premiums are going to increase by $7,657. And so we really needed to make sure that we pay the premiums and ensure the coverage. And so that is why the budget is amended, is for that $7,000. And we have covered that off through self-generated revenue to not ensure that we're not going back again to municipalities with a different level of apportionment than we already had circulated back in October. Given that this is a minor adjustment and that it's covered by self-generated revenues, it wouldn't fall under the category of requiring another 30-day cycle. Staff also took a lot of questions around our capital budget. We wanted to make sure that we had a range and that the board was looking for in terms of a percentage increase. And so our capital budget is very modest capital budget. And it's also included in the budget book. So where we landed was a 2.4 increase overall, which represents $30,562 increase over past years. So I think I'm able to take some questions. Actually, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I do want to just speak to the two business cases. So the business case models were also introduced with this budget process. And so again, learning process for us as staff, but it's a good one. We outlined why the two business cases we were making them. The board supported those two business cases. We are in the recommendations looking to fund them from our 2022 year-end surplus. And for the new board members, at the September board meeting, we did bring a very detailed year-end forecast. And so we were forecasting then that we would have approximately $68,000 surplus by the time we ended 2022. We're still in that process of doing that work, but I can say it's going to be more than what we were forecasting. So it is with confidence that I can say these two business cases are in front of you tonight for approval, and that we will have year-end surplus to help cover those costs. Again, trying to be creative, trying to be efficient with our funds, either being mindful of municipal tax levies and the pressures that municipalities have, but also not trying to draw on reserves. And these are one-time costs, so it's a very financial sustainable approach to use those one-time funds to help do one-time costs in my experience. So that is really the essence of our budget for discussion tonight. Mr. Chair, you're muted.
Yep, thank you. And yeah, thank you, Jeanette, for going through that. And when we approve the budget, this is one that has to be a recorded vote, as well as it's weighted. So there's a slight weighting amongst the municipalities and the city in terms of the vote here. So just when we go to vote, just be forewarned that we have to do it recorded and weighted.
Right.
So with that, any questions? Everybody had a chance to review the budget and kind of understand how it's built and where it comes from and what she's about. Right, John, go ahead.
I have a question through you, Mr. Chair. Bill 23 establishes, if I understand properly, that natural heritage is no longer under Orca's purview, or our investigations and recommendations to municipalities. Will that have, and it's about 5% of our activity, will that have any budget implications at all, or is it too early to predict that?
Great question. Jeanette?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, yes, you threw out a 5%. So the Bill 23 specifically around natural heritage indicates that conservation authorities no longer can comment and review with respect to the Planning Act on natural heritage. So for us, and again, looking back on our transition and program and inventory plan, the majority of our comments are in category 1, which is what we are mandated to do, which is all around natural heritage or natural hazards, I should say, water features. And so it really only represents approximately 5% of our planning application comments that we would actually come in. So it's not as significant for us here at Orca. It might be very different in other conservation authorities. For us, it is in our budget with respect to that. It is very, very small impact. Again, it's not with respect to the tax levy. It is if there is a risk, it would be a financial risk, if you will, in our fees. And again, it would be very early to tell whether or not it would for 2023. So my recommendation is to leave it the way it is, and we will monitor it and obviously report out through our quarterly reports if there is any financial risk to not providing that service, which again is a very small portion of what we actually do.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Wow, this might be the easiest budget passing ever. How do you like that one, Gary?
That's great.
All right, then if we're ready to move it, then I'll ask, is Karen going to do the recorded vote?
Please, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
And staff are with me here doing their magic on their spreadsheets to make sure that we have the weighted vote.
All right, then can I guess we'll get how would we want to do this? We have 5 different motions here. I think we can pass 4 of the 5 easily. I don't think we need a recorded or a weighted on that one. It's only the actual budget itself that we need the weighted on. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
All right. So can I get sorry, Joe. Sorry, I see your hands up there.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. That was going to be my question. So you've covered it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So can I get a mover then for recommendations 1, which is to receive, 2, 2 is the one we want to keep. 3 is
And that would be to keep as well.
that one we keep as well. Okay, so 1 is to receive, 4 is the business cases, and 5 is just to handle things. So is that correct then, Jeanette?
Correct.
So 1, 4, and 5 we can just reprove. Can I get a mover for 1, 4, and 5? Thank you, Adam and Dawn. And all in favor of that? Good, thank you. All right, so now we get into the more complicated piece. Can I get a mover for accepting the amended operating and capital budget as presented and the operating apportionment of 1.247 million and a capital apportionment of 105,000? See Joe and Ron. Thank you very much. Karen, you can do your magic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll just roll call through the list and ask each director how you vote. So start with Director Ron Ashmore. How do you vote?
In favor. So I apologize for my audio, but I can hear everybody, but I apologize for that, but I'll vote in favor.
Thank you. Director Don Vasiliadis.
I'll vote in favor.
Director Kevin Dugay.
Yes.
Director Gary Baldwin.
In support.
Director Michael Metcalf.
Favor.
Director Patrick Wilford.
I think he's muted.
In favor, sorry.
Thank you. Director Ryan Huntley.
Yes.
Director Adam Vervoort.
In favor.
Director Joe Taylor.
Yes.
Director John Boyko.
Yes.
And Director Ron Black.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And thank you, colleagues. We have passed our 2023 budget. Well done. All right. So moving right along then. The next report is your 2023-05 CAO monthly report. So Jeanette, you need to
Thank you, Mr.
take a
Chair.
deep breath and sigh of relief.
Yes. Although you would know, and for the new directors as well, I really do love budgets and things. It is also good to get past that, but I really enjoy the work. So the monthly report, it was December the 15th when we had our last meeting, and obviously with the holidays and things, and then this report out, there hasn't been a lot of external type of work being done. So I've taken the opportunity to highlight our upcoming orientations and things. It was, for me, it was my first transition of the year, and I spent a lot of time here in the office. It was good to get some things, administrative things done, but also being able to help the staff and understand a little bit more of the work, over the Christmas holidays into the new year. So that's all I have to really say for this month, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you, Jeanette. Any questions or about CEO report? Yep, Gary.
Thanks, Jeanette, for the report. Ryan, doesn't really relate to the CO's report, but I was just wondering if she might comment on the format of the meetings going forward, if there's been any thought to that. I know we've been in and out of COVID, and we've been doing the Zoom meetings for quite some time. I was just wondering if you might comment on that, Jeanette, with respect to meetings going forward in 2023.
Go ahead, Jeanette.
I'm happy to, Mr. Chair. So I did put out, as discussed at the December meeting, did put a survey out. We didn't hear back from everyone in terms of responding to the questions. And the response that we did get was really 50-50, right down the line in terms of what to do. So I did bring this to my weekly meetings with the chair and the vice chair in terms of what would we like to do in terms of things. And then also recognizing that when we publish our agendas, we do need to be very clear on the format so that the public understands where we are in terms of things. So for this meeting, we went with status quo because we were running up against that timeline. But I think it's really a board discussion in terms of what you would like to do. And recognizing that the survey was helpful, but it didn't really give us a clear path one way or the other in terms of things.
Yeah, thanks for that. And through the chair, you know, most boards and city council, we've been all over the map. You know, we've been doing hybrid meetings, we've been doing Zoom, we've returned to in person with city council, which hadn't always been the case. So, and I recognize when we have new directors and new members of the board, it might be something, Mr. Chair, that you might want to discuss at some point in time, perhaps at another meeting. But I think it's one of those things that should be a discussion point at some point in time. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, absolutely, Gary. Like we really, like as Jeanette said, we sent out the survey, we got it back, and it really provided us with no help. and adding to that, in order for us as a board to have a hybrid meeting, we really have to do a scramble, right? Because we don't have a true meeting space at this point. So we'd have to kind of really plan ahead to figure that one out. So we'll still work through it. And yeah, I think we just need to regroup with the survey results and maybe issue a follow-up survey and kind of hound people to actually respond to it. I mean, I think the results were good. I think it was like probably what 70 or 80% of the people did respond, but it did cut it down the middle. so it was yeah.
Thanks, Ryan.
So staying where we are was kind of what we had to do for this month, but we will bring that back, Gary, for sure. Mike, you have a comment?
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to circle back to the event, the Jackson Creek reopening that happened on Saturday, and provide thanks to the staff that pulled that off. It was a really excellent event. Whoever brought the weather for that day, good for them. It was incredible. It was the first sun I think we've seen all of January. There was a really great turnout, and to have our neighbors and partners there from Curve Lake was really great to see as well. And they were very excited, and it's a great partnership going forward. So thank you to the staff. It was a great event, and hopefully we'll have more to come. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Michael. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Can I get somebody to receive Jeanette's report? Adam, Pat, all in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you again, Jeanette. Correspondence and media coverage. I guess the Jackson Creek thing did show up there in some of the media coverage, but there is a letter from the MNRF. I don't know if everybody got a chance to see that one, but we are off the hook for Joe's gravel pit. So it's a big accomplishment, and congratulations for staff for getting us through that one, you know, with little battle scars. I mean, it took a long time to get there, but we finally got that off our books, which is a huge accomplishment. So thank you, Jeanette, and all your staff that worked on that one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we do know that there's a lot of people that are very interested in it and sort of what's going to happen next. So we think that it'd be helpful to have a media release being sent out to letting people know. But just recognizing that actually it was in October that staff were, this was a discussion at the performance objectives, and really the board wanted to see us move forward a little quicker on this. So we were able to get the attention of the ministry to do that. But thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you. Anybody want to bring anything else from the media forward? All right, seeing none, we receive our correspondence and media coverage. Gary and Mike, all in favor. So received. Thank you very much. Open forum. We want to talk about campgrounds and meetings. Very good. Anything else?
I do have a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there memorandums of understanding in place with those municipalities that form part of the governance board of Conservation Authority?
Do you understand the question, Jeanette?
Mr. Chair, Not quite, but we do have MOUs with respect to services and programs, which would be the standard, which what conservation authorities would have. But if Director Duguay is looking for something more, we do not.
So specifically, what I'm wanting to know is, I was of the understanding that City of Peterborough had a signed memorandum of understanding with the Conservation Authority. I think I may have even seen a copy at some point. So if those exist, my question is, are they in place? Are they current? And then I have a second question around fees. I want to speak to if there's a memorandum, is it current and does it need to be updated if not current?
So, Mr. Chair, so specifically, there is a memorandum of understanding with the City of Peterborough. It's actually on our website with respect to plan review and permitting, and that is up to date. We actually have all of our MOUs up to date. We also have all of our agreements up to date. That was one of the things that we pay attention to, and the former CIO left us in good hands in terms of things. The only thing that will be coming up that is a regulatory requirement is what is called cost apportionment agreements with all of our member municipalities. And right now we have 2 municipalities that have already signed off on those cost apportionment agreements, Township of Selwyn and Doral Dummer. And so we need to do those by June of 2024. I'm sorry, June of 2023. My apologies. So we are up to date for all of our memorandums, all of our agreements, and now we have this ongoing piece of work called cost apportionment agreements.
The agreement with the City of Peterborough, when would it expire?
I don't know off the top of my mind, but give me 2 seconds and I'll have it here.
If not, even if you could offline, perhaps send it to Councillors Baldwin, Vasiliadis, and myself. I wouldn't mind just having it available. And then related to that, I'd like to.
I can say it's March of 2024.
Okay, thank you.
A lovely summary chart.
Then I have a comment or question with respect to fees. So a development application, because our municipality has just approved a comprehensive update of its planning and development fees, and they are substantial increases, substantial amount of monies, and a new process that will be expediting approvals with a intention that the regulatory provisions through Bill 109/23 and the like, that those timelines will have to be met. So having said that, Conservation Authority does conduct reviews of applications. And then there are fees charged to review those applications. But my experience in my previous life and ongoing capacity as professional planner, conservation authorities, and I've seen examples that in the with Orca, we might have an application where I'll use a city where initially there was really no comments or concerns. It's not in a flood area, not near any environmental features. There's a standard fee. And then if there was a severance application for the exact same property for development to accommodate perhaps a division of land, there might be another review. Appreciate that there's nothing, and then it might be a review of minor variances and a review of a site plan. But there were fees being collected each time, and in some instances, there was really no comment or matters that would have warranted the authority's input, but there would be 4 separate fees. Will that be rethought of, or can that be rethought of in so far as fee structures and how fees are assigned for review of applications?
So, Mr. Chair, I appreciate that I'm new to autonomy conservation, and I also appreciate that I'm new to Peterborough and our watershed community. So I don't have all of that history in terms of things, but I also come with a very strong background as being a municipal CAO for a very long time. So I understand how those mechanisms work together, and I understand the importance of timelines and streamlined processes and things. With that said, the board did approve our fee policy, which is new, and our fee schedule at the December meeting. And there is, of course, we would not, I don't know the particular situation that you're referring to, but that scenario wouldn't play out today in terms of things. There is abilities for the staff if the review is minor, or if it's insignificant in the way that you were describing it, that we would not charge those fees. We don't currently have a consolidated fee if all of those applications were made, but that is something that we could look at. And we also don't have an extra added fee for something that is expedited through the process as well. So we that would take a little bit of thinking through that. I would be a bit concerned it might cause a sort of a two-tiered approach or a two-service level approach. What I would like to do, focus in, is to make sure that we are meeting the timelines that the province has set out for all conservation authorities, and we're actually exceeding those timelines. We report regularly to the board that we on our timelines, and we also provide reports on our permits and, as well. So we are exceeding those timelines that the province has given. We do have a conversation, as you're aware, coming up on Monday with all of our municipal partners, our planning staff and CAOs, where I really do want to make sure that if municipalities have different circumstances or we're trying to work through the implementation of new Bill 109 or 23, whatever those cases may be, that we work with that member municipality to ensure that they're receiving the information in a timely fashion. But I don't know if I've answered all of those questions that you have there, Director Dugal, but I wanted to assure you that the staff, whatever the circumstances that might have happened in the past, is not something that we're looking to do, or we're looking to do better.
All right, I appreciate that. Then I have, if you will, Mr. Chairman, one more comment, and this is relevant to, I think, all the municipalities represented in this call. It's not a criticism of the authority. I just have the opportunity of working in 50 different municipalities at, on a given year. And there was a development application in which a municipality which has a engineering department, I think it was 4 professional engineers. And in this case, it was a mixed residential commercial development on a major road with municipal services. The Conservation Authority's position was this, insofar as stormwater management, that they have, the authority had some established sort of criteria, and providing those were being addressed by the municipality, the authority would not, and I would not comment on, they would receive the report and would be providing no technical review and comments. And this was important because it was a time savings for the authority. They're saying you're, as long as post and pre and post conditions, I don't want to bore people, but all the technical details were all being properly addressed by professional engineers of the municipality and of that county and of the development team. The authority would receive the report, but we're not going to take a role in commenting because their position was it would have been redundant. I'm just offering that as an observation around business and core business and just timeliness, whatever it's worth. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman, to offer those comments. And I'll and if I appear to be looking to my right, I'm actually reading, I have 2 laptops, so I'm reading documents, Bill 23 at the same time. So I tend to have to work from split screens. I just wanted to show Mr. Black I can actually multitask. So I wanted him to know that. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Jeanette, for your comments and response. Thank you.
Yeah,
First for everything, Kevin.
no problem, Kev. I guess we did a lot of work with the previous board, and we hope to continue that work with this board to, make Orca a partner with our municipalities and not an obstacle in terms of development and planning. So hopefully, this board will continue, and we can kind of point this thing in the right direction. And I think that's everybody's goal is, do what we're supposed to do and not get in the way, but still provide professional and technical advice where we're supposed to be doing that, and regulatory, obviously. With that, Joe, you got a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we will. I don't know whether it's quarterly but regularly, the staff will be providing the board with a plan review permitting matrix where it's the information provided as the number of plans reviewed, the category they fit into, and the timeframes associated with passing those plans or providing the comment. But I just want to, Jeanette, just correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe any time that there is a change to the fees associated with any services or plan reviews or anything else that Orca does, that comes through the board for approval before those changes are implemented. Is that correct?
That is correct. Absolutely, yes. And
So when an agreement with the city or any municipality or anything else comes up for renewal with fees associated with it, this board will have a conversation about it and be able to be part of the decision.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay.
And I believe we just reviewed those fees last month, did we not?
Overall,
approved.
the board did review those fees for 2023. The province has given directives to conservation authorities that we are not, those fees for 2023 are now frozen in terms of things. So we're not allowed to make changes at this point without the minister's approval. But to the point of Director Taylor, that yes, any of the agreements, anything that has are related to our partnerships as well, they come all in front of the board for discussion and approval.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Anybody else? Anything else you want to bring up in open forum here? All right. Seeing nothing, we'll move on. We have no closed sessions, no reports from there. Future meetings next week. Obviously, we have our AGM, and prior to the AGM, we have a orientation starting at 4 o'clock, all virtual. After that, there's a Conservation Ontario Council meeting on March the 8th. And then there's a source water protection meeting on the 20th. Those are all our future meetings that I see. After that, I just will call for an adjournment. Nobody wants to go. Excellent. Joe and Mike, all in favor of adjourning?